So I've never been to Enoshima before, but I've actually seen a lot of people post online a lot of really beautiful photos and videos of the location, so of course I had to visit myself. So I planned a solo trip to take the train, and this is the route that I used on the screen. Probably the most tricky part was once I arrived at Shonan Enoshima station and exited the station, I had a straight shot walk to this point, and here you kind of make like a loop-de-loop by the Koban. There's a police station on the right hand side, so you'll turn right and then go around and then go underground through a tunnel.
I think that I'm supposed to go this way because of the sign. Look. So we're just gonna go that way. I also should be wearing my mic, so I'm gonna take it out at some point, probably now. Sure enough, we figured it out. I am literally notorious for never charging my stuff, and the one thing that's always charged is my mic, thankfully. At this point, I don't think I need the GPS on my phone anymore, which means I can probably turn it off and avoid draining its battery. Look at the view.
Before arriving on the island, I had looked up a couple of things to do, and my main goal was to see the Enoshima sea candle. That area is an observatory building where you can get a view of the whole island. So my goal was to get there if at all possible, despite the heat and the crowds. I really wanted to go visit that area. So I started walking, and this is kind of what I saw along that main road once you enter the Enoshima Island space. I think on a cooler day, I would like to come back through this area and explore more of the little shops. For example, this little denim spot. I would love to go and look around and see what they have and what they're selling. Due to the fact that I was recording this video in the summer, if you've ever been to Japan during the summertime, you know just how hot and humid that it can get. And the temperature was definitely a factor in me wanting to get to the Enoshima sea candle as quickly as possible and head home. I don't have like a lot of tired, overheated shots, but trust and believe the heat was a factor here. And I feel like that's something to note for anybody that does make a trip to Enoshima or probably to Japan in general during the summertime. It does get quite hot here. And even if you're used to an area with a lot of heat, the humidity here definitely makes the heat in the summer here more dangerous. So I highly recommend bringing maybe a cool towel, carrying a drink that has electrolytes in it, and if all possible, stay in the shade. One of the things I did was take this indoor escalator area to mitigate being in the heat for so long. So I was able to pay a couple $100 and then take the escalator as opposed to walking on foot for the full way. Don't worry, I got my steps in regardless. I still ended up walking a lot of the way in the sun, but where possible, I did try and utilize areas that were cooled and had AC available. Speaking of temperature, I think the summer would be my last place recommendation, even after winter, to visit Japan. Although I think it's really important to understand that every single season in Japan has something special and worth seeing about it. But if it's your first time visiting Japan, my recommendation is to come during the spring or fall because the temperature is a lot more midway than the summer and winter here, and I feel like that would be a better experience if you're trying to explore outdoors and all different types of venues. However, I think it is worthwhile to see what summer is like in Japan. There's certain things that only happen during summertime. This place, for example, is somewhere I would like to revisit during the fall. I think the ambiance would be different. You wouldn't hear the cicadas calling in the background, and seeing the fall leaves here would be really, really beautiful. So this is a place I would want to come back in the fall. Also, I think it would be more pleasurable to be outdoors walking around. At this point, I was not even trying to communicate with the camera anymore because I just got too hot. And I think that is sometimes the reality of the content that I create. It's fun to edit and show you guys, but during the experience, sometimes it is actually really hot and sweaty. I think soon up here, I'm gonna show myself and you'll see what I mean. Yeah, right here, I am gonna pivot the camera. And you're gonna see I'm very sweaty at this point. And honestly, I think that's okay. I think the reality of traveling and exploring is not always as glamorous as sometimes I've seen on social media. Sometimes it is a bit hot and you do need to make sure you've packed water or mosquito repellent or whatever the case may be. But views like this make it 100% worth it. I think this is a good part of the video to note that although I have the names of the shrines that are being shown listed on the screen, I wanted to provide additional detail for the locations that I passed by but didn't really talk about in detail in the description of this video. So if you're looking for more information on a specific information, I tried to add helpful links below. So please feel free to check the description and see if you find some helpful resources there. As in all of my content, the goal for the videos that I make is to share not only my life and my experiences traveling in Japan, but also to hopefully make your travel in Japan easier, whether that's introducing you to new locations to add to your itinerary or giving you some helpful tips to help you better experience something that you already had on your radar. Speaking of which, please comment down below if you are planning to visit Enoshima or if there is someplace else in Japan that you're planning to visit. If you are interested in traveling in Japan or moving to Japan or Japan content in general just interests you, I highly recommend going ahead and hitting the subscribe button. I post new content every Sunday and I try to share either a unique experience from a place that I've traveled or maybe some perspectives or tips that I think would help somebody who plans to visit or live in Japan. And as always, a big thank you to my team Ikigai, my subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. Welcome to all of the newbies. I am seeing a few new faces join the chat. So if you are a new subscriber, actually go ahead and comment that down below as well. I would love to hear about how you found this channel or things that you're interested in. So please go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. I really appreciate everyone who is taking the time from their day to hang out with me in this video and watch my trip to Enoshima. At this point, I am close to the sea candle. This little boardwalk area leads me right up to the building. I was surprised by how tall it is, considering that the island itself is pretty small. So here is the base of it. And then as we get closer, you just see perspectively how big it is. Like, you can see the people compare it to it, and then look at that. Way up there. So I actually bought a ticket. I didn't talk about that, but I showed you guys the ticket. I bought a ticket which gives me admission to the sea candle. So I had to do that first before I could access it. This Sunset Terrace area has a really pretty view. And once I got to the top, I realized that you can see a panoramic view of most of the island from just the Sunset Terrace, but my ticket included being able to go up to the top of the sea candle, so that was what I wanted to do. And this is the view comparatively. Look at that. And I finished touring the sea candle, and it was time to go home. At this point, I was definitely ready to go home because it was quite hot, but I still enjoyed the last part of my experience here.
So hungry.
本日も JR 東日本をご利用くださいましてありがとうございます。今度の2番線の電車は13時16分発普通成田空港行きです。
I can honestly say this is worth every single calorie. So good.